Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, recycling trade publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Harvey Oberfeld. He's a retired but still issue-engaged television reporter. You can find his blog, Keeping It Real, on harveyoberfeld.ca. Welcome back to the show, Harvey.
Good to talk to you.
Harvey, you posted an article saying that you were pleased to see that People's Party of Canada leader Maxime Bernier will be included now in the next round of debates. Was this a good move on the debate commission?
Yes, I think it was. Not that I'm supporting his party in any way, but at the beginning of September I wrote a blog calling for him to be included. And that's the important part of it. You know, we live in a democracy, and Bernier, he was elected in a democratic process by a party. He has candidates running in all the provinces, almost a full slate, and he has some credibility himself. He served as a Minister of Foreign Affairs in the Conservative government. He was Minister of State for Small Business. He was Minister of Industry. He was opposition critic. I mean, this guy does have credentials, and then he broke away. Even during the Tory leadership contest, a lot of people don't realize that for the first 12 votes, he was leading Scheer. And even when he lost on the 13th vote, he lost to Scheer, he still got more than 49% of the vote among Conservatives. So he's no slouch, and I just couldn't understand why he was omitted from the debate in the first place, other than the fact that the other parties, of course, don't want him in. And I think the establishment media also didn't want him in, because certainly some of the things he talks about and some of the things he advocates are not popular with the politically correct classes of society, and they wanted to keep him out. And I'm very happy to see him included in the debate. At least it'll add some interest and probably make the debate much more exciting than it would have been.
Do you think Bernier being allowed in the debate by the Trudeau-controlled debate commission is in hope of splitting the Conservative vote?
Well, I'm sure that I wouldn't call it Trudeau-controlled. I think the commission was it was made up of broadcasters. You had the former Governor General sitting there. I mean, they certainly was establishment. That's true, and the establishment never likes to have some guy from the outside coming in with a populist message, and they just want to keep it to themselves. But definitely, I think it'll have more impact on the Conservatives, and they probably have the greatest amount to fear. But I would, a lot of people haven't even looked at the People's Party of Canada platform, and if you go on their website, it's quite eye-opening, because there are a lot of things there that could even win some support from, let's say, center or center-right liberals. Things like ending marketing board control of the poultry industry, the dairy industry, things like pulling back from some of our UN commitments, pulling back on some foreign aid. Those are hot-button issues with a lot of people, and if he gets a chance in the debate to talk about those, one of the things I noticed he advocated, and I didn't even know this until I went to the site, was ending equalization payments to a lot of provinces that really don't need them. And that's something it's been a bee in my bonnet for years, how Quebec, I can't imagine how Quebec has been milking the equalization grant system, which was originally, you could see it going to some of the poorer provinces like the Maritimes, but Quebec has made an industry of equalization grants, and no one dares to touch it. And here comes the People's Party of Canada saying it's time to end equalization payments to provinces that don't really need it. And when he gets a chance to say that to a national audience, I think he's going to spark some interest in people. All he wants to get out of the debate, I would think, is to get people to look at their policies by going to their website and all that, and watch for him to push those policies during the debate, not just this all the talk about immigration and refugees, but other policies that the party has. And I think he could pull some Liberal support. I think he mostly would pull some of the Conservative support. But in my view, it's really irrelevant what the policies are. From my point of view, in getting him included in the debate, it was more about democracy and having a good discussion of ideas and policies and principles, and I'm glad to see him in.
We'll have more with Harvey Oberfeld right after the break.
Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Cypress Development Corp. is developing a world-class lithium resource in the heart of Clayton Valley, Nevada. The size of the resource makes the Clayton Valley project a premier asset with the potential to impact the future of lithium supply. Cypress Development Corp. trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol CYP, the OTCQB, symbol CYDVF, and on Frankfurt, symbol C1Z1. For more information, please visit our website, cypressdevelopmentcorp.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Harvey Oberfeld. Harvey, in your article, you mentioned you support immigration. Bernier wants immigration to be between 100 and 150,000 people per year. Justin Trudeau shooting for 350,000 a year. Andrew Scheer hasn't told us what he supports. How many immigrants do you think Canada could support every year?
Well, that's a very, very difficult question for a layman or, ordinary citizen to know. I think it all depends on, first of all, what's our economic situation? What's the need? What do we need any given year? We might need more immigrants. Certainly, I think there's a general consensus among people who look at this and economists that the Canadian economy, especially in the future, we do need immigrants. We don't sustain by our birth rate the needs that we have going forward to support all the social programs and expand them. Everybody is asking for more. Well, we need immigrants to bolster that. So what the exact number is, I don't know. I assume the experts will tell us each year this is what we need. So I'm not necessarily in favor of what he calls, let's end mass immigration until you know what the definition is and how it applies to the economics of the country at any given moment or any given year. But it's certainly it's a hot button issue that people hear. There was a lot of controversy about the billboards that were up by a third party, but they certainly seem to be supporting Maxime Bernier with his big picture on there. And the billboard said, "Say no to mass immigration." Well, the companies that put up the billboards got some political heat and took them down. I disagreed with that. I see nothing wrong with that message. Say no to mass immigration. I mean, that, you might disagree with the policy, but, certainly a party has a right to say that. And I think it's an issue that Canadians should be prepared to discuss and have the experts on both sides of the issue say, well, what's the correct number? I don't know what the number is, but I don't mind having the discussion. And I think he's going to score points during the debate when he comes forward and starts talking about that issue. And we have to draw a difference between immigration and illegal economic migrants. That's a big different issue. And readers of my blog know I have railed against these people who just show up not even at a border crossing. They just show up at a hole in the fence and they get welcomed in and sort of come in and, now it's going to take a long time to process them. And 40% of those that have been ruled on so far have been rejected. but the cost of processing them, we're looking at $396 million for 2019 to 2020 just to process all those people. And even if you say that they're here illegally, they don't really qualify as refugees or asylum seekers. Good luck in trying to get them out. That's the problem. And no Canadian government has been very good. It takes years, and in the meantime, they usually end up trying to find the jobs of some sort or work of some sort, or legally or illegally. They have kids that are born in Canada, and then when you go try to get rid of them, people say, but these kids are born here. How can we send these people back? So if they come here illegally and just walk in across the fence, I have a great problem with those people who just come here and say, to hell with your laws, I'm just coming, what are you going to do about it? But if it's legal asylum seekers, people that are true refugees coming from terrible countries and terrible conditions, I'm very supportive of welcoming as many as we can easily or conveniently, or even just, it's, even with some stress, we can absorb them, we can welcome them. And legal immigration I support, but it's the illegals, and I think Bernier during the debate is going to emphasize that, and he's going to try to push some buttons on that issue.
So those people walking across the border in Quebec, how should they be classified? Because they certainly didn't go through a formal border crossing.
No, they're illegal migrants or immigrants. Interestingly, Bernier's party proposes that for the sake of people coming across that way, the entire border be declared a legal crossing point, so that they can then be processed without claiming special status as coming in illegally. Now, how that would work, I don't know, but that's one of the things that they have talked about. And the idea is to get around the ability of them to go through a fence. Mostly in Quebec, by the way, is where that's taking place. And, that's a very sensitive issue in Quebec, which is xenophobic at the best of times. So he's going to push that button also. And I don't mind seeing that discussed and debated. And I think he's going to change the whole atmosphere of the debate, because I can assure you, whenever the moderators try to go on to something, whether it's the economy or defense or any kind of topic, families or health, you watch Bernier, he's going to start talking about, well, if we had more money to spend on our own people instead of catering to these people who are coming here illegally, he will use that, and he's going to add a whole new dimension to the debates that I think would have been pushed under the carpet if he were not taking part.
We'll have more with Harvey Oberfeld right after this.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlin, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the 2019 drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Harvey Oberfeld. Harvey, should Canada just take in immigrants from certain parts of the world, or take a look at the skills that particular immigrant will bring to our country?
I think it's a combination of both. I think we need immigrants. First of all, most of the immigrants that come into Canada, I would say the overwhelming majority, they become good Canadians. They're hardworking. Very few of them are long-term, welfare recipients or that. They want to get in here, and they are prepared to work longer hours than maybe some of our own Canadian citizens are. So I have no problem with immigrants. I don't really care where they come from, but if they meet certain criteria. And of course, we should encourage people to immigrate that have skills, especially. We don't just want people that are fleeing, lousy conditions of that and poverty. We want people with certain skills, and I think Canada has been very weak in going after those people. For example, the United States, with their political problems, again, another blog topic I wrote about was, why don't we make a more aggressive attempt to get Americans who are worried about the gun violence of the United States, the political divisions in the United States, which are quite severe now. I mean, it's not getting better, it's getting worse. There's a lot of professional people there that we should be targeting and saying, look, come on north. This is a good society. You have opportunity here. You have social programs here. You have safety here. But we have been very weak in going after those immigrants. Europe is not so much a fertile field for us because the European economy is doing fairly well, and although maybe we could go after people in Britain and encourage them to come here, but Europe is not a great place for us to seek immigrants, because there are a lot of people with professional abilities and skills and that are doing quite well in Europe, especially Western Europe, and even in parts of Eastern Europe, the economies are getting stronger. But the United States, for example, is ripe for Canadians to do some immigrant promotion, and I don't think we do enough of that. But I'd like to see some of that. And interestingly, the People's Party of Canada, one of their policies calls for ending open borders and sort of encouraging immigration or even accepting of refugees with much more specific criteria than we have been applying in the past. And I'd like to see some of that talked about during the debates, put some pressure on the major parties, also.
Does multiculturalism unite Canadians or divide us by culture?
I think multiculturalism does a little bit of both. I'm not a great fan of multiculturalism. I think in a way it delays the assimilation into the Canadian society of a lot of people that come here. It's almost too easy to continue to exist and work and hire and, in your own particular language. On the other hand, it doesn't bother me that much because I see the melting pot society in the United States, and I don't really like what I see in the United States as a society, the division, love America or you're an enemy or get out, that sort of thing. I don't like that melting pot aspect, but I think in Canada, multiculturalism itself is not bad, but I don't like to see it emphasized as much as it seems to be here by the party leaders who cater to it, right? Who almost promote it. And interestingly, again, the People's Party of Canada, if you look at their policies, it wants to end multiculturalism. It would not fund multicultural projects. It would not fund multicultural programs. It's more of a melting pot party. And that's another thing that I think Bernier will push in the debates. And it should be really interesting to see how the other party leaders will react to that.
What's your impression of Conservative leader Andrew Scheer's policies on firearms?
Well, I think it kind of wavers. I mean, he was quoted. He says one thing, and and then he says different things in different parts of the country. I think in Alberta he has one policy, seems to me. In BC and maybe in Ontario he has a slightly different policy on firearms. But I don't think that's a big issue in this coming election. I don't think Canadians feel that that's one of the primary concerns, that they're not going to decide their votes on that kind of an issue. Again, the People's Party of Canada is much more, I think their policy seems to be more to Canadians have the right to bear arms almost, sort of thing, and not to take them away from you. But I don't think that'll be a big issue during the election.
Harvey, you mentioned one of your articles that Canada gave India $64 million in foreign aid, yet India has spent almost $2 billion alone this year on their moon project.
Right.
Are they really a country that needs foreign aid anymore?
Well, it makes me wonder about it. I mean, certainly if you look at the conditions in parts of India, yes, there's tremendous poverty still. There's tremendous need. But when you see a government itself that has spent over the last few years billions on a space program that recently failed, by the way, didn't accomplish what they wanted. I think they lost contact with their satellite, but even just making the effort and spending so many billions of dollars on something like that, when you have such poverty, such need, I don't know why we would give them $64 million or anything, when countries take aid that we give them and they have the money for all kinds of projects that are not necessary. I think we should look at our foreign aid that way. And I wrote about that, when India launched its satellite. And again, I think during the debate, I wouldn't be surprised to see Maxime Bernier talk about that. And he has actually called for eliminating a lot of Canadian foreign aid. He's actually called, or the party calls, for withdrawing from UN policies and UN programs that we are funding completely. He's actually quite critical of the United Nations as being controlled by dictators and all kinds of worst human rights abusers. I mean, and he's going to score points with that if he starts talking about that. Like, let's keep the money at home to help our own. I don't necessarily agree with that. I like foreign aid, but it should go to countries that need it and countries that will use it properly, and not steal half the money and have it end up in the wrong hands, or take our aid and then waste the billions on all kinds of other projects that are not necessary. And I bet you Bernier, when he gets a chance, will take on that issue.
Yes, and when I talked to Maxime as well, he said he's not against helping out countries like the Bahamas that have suffered one of the world's worst natural disasters ever. It's just, like you said, tin pot dictatorships that probably will take that money and just stuff their pockets with it.
That's right. And one of their policies on their website mentioned phasing out international development aid. How many billions has Canada spent on international development aid to countries that still, I mean, we don't seem to see much results, and then we see them spending all kinds of money on all kinds of wasteful projects. What was that? India spent $400 million on a statue. They have the world's biggest statue, and then they come to us and say we need money because we can't feed our people. So I think if Bernier takes advantage of that and starts mentioning things like that, he will score points. And of course, it will naturally appeal to probably people that tend to lean conservative. But I have a feeling he's going to score some points with people on the right side of the Liberal Party as well, who maybe would vote conservative but don't like Scheer or don't like some of the conservative social policies, and that sort of thing. I think he could score points with them if he's effective during the debate and bringing forward these ideas from the People's Party of Canada. And as I say, I think if he does one thing during that debate, it should be to try to trigger people to go to their website, look at their policies, look at their platform. And I bet you there's a lot of Canadians who right now would say, oh, I'd never vote for the People's Party. But if they go and look at the platform and the specifics of it, they will find a new interest in, well, maybe he's not as radical as we've been led to believe by the mainstream media, who clearly don't like him and don't want to see the apple cart shifted in any way.
Well, you could tell by Barton's line of questioning on the CBC, she certainly doesn't like Mr. Bernier.
I didn't see the interview. I was out of the country for a few days. But, I think, the mainstream media are really part of the establishment. And the establishment in Canada, they're four political parties. And they don't want to see... They don't want to see the apple cart, stirred up at all. This election will come down, I believe. It's really the two smaller parties, the NDP and the Greens, are irrelevant, I think, in this federal election. This is going to be a battle between the Liberals and the Conservatives, and the introduction of Bernier and his People's Party will have a major impact on that, or it could. depending on his performance during that debate, and that's why they wanted to keep him out. And I could see the NDP is fighting his inclusion, so much for their belief in, let's have full and open public discourse. They want to keep him out because they could almost face oblivion at the election if he takes away some support in Quebec that used to go to the NDP. They could really suffer big losses in Quebec at the cost of Bernier's party for people who just don't want Andrew Scheer, but they are sort of conservative-leaning or certainly not liberal. They don't like the Liberals. They may take a look at the People's Party of Canada.
Harvey, thank you so much for chatting with us.
You're welcome.
My guest has been Harvey Oberfeld. Check out his blog, Keeping It Real, on his website, harveyoberfeld.ca. If you have any questions for our guests, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet, our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.